Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now, a friend of mine, who I mentioned before, and who I know watches these videos, so, hi Chris, he linked up a thing the other day that I saw, which I had to dig into, because it involves a form of testing in kind of psychology and kind of similar areas that just doesn't work. Yeah, it's a poor form of test, and it doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but it is lifted up, and the information supposedly gained through it is kind of thrown around with such weight by people that it kind of it can do a huge amount of damage, and it can do a huge amount of other stupid shit because people take it in the wrong way, or they don't understand it, they don't understand how it's been gathered, they don't understand the mechanisms behind it. And so as a result, I wanted to tap in on this, and this form of testing is implicit association tests, the kind that in this particular article that Chris linked up was to do with Harvard University's Project Implicit, which I've done these tests. I've done tests like them, and my biggest problem with them. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen them. It's where you'll have good and bad flashed up for a second, and there'll be a thing in the middle, and you have to tap a key to send it either to good or bad. And then they'll run you through different scenarios where they change the things around from one side to the other, and they'll run you through it again and again and again in a very short period of time. Not just so that you can't think about it, so that it's a snap decision, so that you're reacting on instinct, but also just to kind of train you into doing it in various ways. Depending on what order they give you the kind of things to decide on. But the article that was put up was from May 2017, just a couple of months back. And it was about they put out this map, which is here, which apparently shows the kind of mean IAT scores, or implicit association test scores, of white participants within like this area of Europe, which always this starts ringing alarm bells straight off for me, because it's at Harvard University, which is an American university. The images that they give you and the images and words that they give you are either misspelt, they're in English, or, well, they're in American, I should say, hence them being somewhat misspelt in certain instances. And as a result, though, they're also talking about European Americans, or white Americans, and black Americans, and so surely if you're talking about implicit associations, then those associations carry on beyond that, surely. But here you're apparently seeing where the bluer it is, the less kind of racially focused they are, and the redder it is, the more kind of racist they are, the more easily they implicitly associate negativity with black people. Now, arguably, is there an element of truth to this? Yeah, maybe. Some of those countries that have been marked out in red are more backward, or have been shown to be more negative towards people who are different from themselves, considering most of them are vast majority white populations. But at the same time, again, test in English, all these weird associations being brought up from that, when some of these people that have done the test are from countries where English isn't their first language. So some of the positives that they've gotten on some of the markers here, some of the positive hits that they've got, may not be accurate. It might have just been confusion. But moving on from that, though, the biggest issue that I have with kind of these implicit association test things is, as a gamer, as anyone who has played any kind of motor functions game knows, like, once you get into pressing buttons in certain orders or with certain stimuli, you get kind of stuck in that pattern. It's a new schema being developed in your head, yeah. And so, as a result, with the implicit association test, where they start off by going, sort these between white person and black person. Right. Now sort these between good and bad. Right. Now, black person and bad and white person and good are in the same place, and we're going to give you that for 2 more times. So you've now done it 4 times to say that good is one way and bad is the other way, and white is one way and black is the other way. And so you've been trained 4 times to associate those keys, and then they flip it on you at the end, so that it becomes black person and good are in the same place, and white person and bad are in the same place. So you've already been trained 4 times to associate it the other way around, and then at the very end they flip it on you and give it to you 2 more times. So you're having to unlearn and relearn at high speed over something that potentially you haven't fully understood in the first place, and it's supposed to give you your implicit associations, your underlying feelings, that your snap decisions. But I don't feel that that's the case, and it's fairly, to me, obvious that it's not the case when you've got the training aspect of it. If this was done on completely removed days, completely removed situations, and so on and so forth, then fine. Fair enough. I would go, okay, they've trained them one day to do one thing, one day to do another thing. They've used different control schemes so that it's a new thing to learn each time, so there's no crossover. Maybe on one test it was one side to the other, on the other test it was up and down, so that you don't have that overlap, you don't have that confusion, that crossover. Then I would be like, yep, okay, fine, not a problem, because that way you've not got the you've not got the overlap, you've not got confusion, you've not got trying to rewrite things that you've already been trained to do twice as many times than when they're actually asking you to prove otherwise. It stands out to me that's one of the biggest problems with this kind of testing, especially when it's online and you're not supervised anyway, and all you've got is a computer being like, come on, do it quicker, you need to decide faster, please. It's not helpful. It doesn't really give you anything. And even within the article they go, oh yes, it's controversial, but... And it's like, well, no, it's not just controversial. They go, but we believe that they reflect automatic associations. Well, yeah, but where's the proof of that? Because you're already saying that they aren't, that they're controversial, that you can't support it. They're not very kind of easily replicated, because you could sit that person down and get them to do it again, and it could come out with a completely different thing, because they're better kind of primed for what they're doing, or because you've changed the control scheme so it adds up better in their head. They're less confused about the fact that they're going to have to swap it round in such a way at the end, and they know the order that they're being trained to do it in. You've got an awful lot more going on here than what's actually being discussed. And so then, though, they go, well, it might be a weak measure of individual psychology, but when we take it as a group, and this is the thing that pisses me off about sociology as well, by the way, groups are made up of individuals. If you can't accurately analyse the individual, you can't accurately analyse the group. Group psychology is the way to go, yeah. Which then extends into things, other areas like anthropology, where it's matching it with kind of historical contexts and things like that. But when it comes to it, group psychology is purely individual psychology, then expanded to include those additional interactions and dynamics. Going, well, it's not a good measure of one person, but it will be a great measure of everybody, makes absolutely no fucking sense at all. Which is why I saw this and had to comment, because it's like, no, I'm sorry. There may very well be kind of areas and cultures that, yes, do dislike the other, are majority white, and so when they see a black face, it may very well lead them to go, ooh, what's that person doing here? There may very well be rural communities that have basically never seen a person that isn't as pale as snow in their entire lives, and as a result, it causes them unrest. But trying to prove it, trying to demonstrate it through this method is just flawed and foolish. And it gives the people who would then take this as fact and so on, and gives them more support, more purview to go and run around and mess around with this information and use it to justify whatever crappy actions they take with it. And so, you know, we're going down and they're going, oh yeah, well, people in the north and people in the west have a less strong anti-black association, and stuff like that. It's like, well, yeah, but again, looking at that, you're either stating the fucking obvious, which it comes down to things that are far outside of the things being supposedly measured in this test. But also, it's a case of, well, yeah, look at where the growing populations of these people are. You know, you're not getting as many people in the landlocked regions of kind of, I don't know, the Balkans or whatever. You know, you're not getting as many people moving in those directions over time generally, especially considering that some of those areas, some of those regions have been war-torn in like recent decades. You know, you're not going to have people gravitate to those areas. They're gravitating to the areas that are wealthy, and historically the areas that are wealthy have always been on the sea with access to food, transit, everything. And so, yeah, no shit. I didn't need some daft test that doesn't make any sense to tell me that, to suggest that this would be the case. Now, at the end of the article, which, by the way, I'll link the article down below in the description, from quartz.com, yeah. At the end, they go, okay, so open questions, you know, when interpreting the map, there are at least two important qualifications to bear in mind. And the first one is it's only measuring one dimension. It's only measuring the pairing of black and white with good and bad. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. But also, as said, the question that I would kind of bring up before that isn't just, oh, well, it's measuring one dimension, because that's fine if that's what you want to measure, but it's how it's measured, which if you're training 4 times and then only really like looking for what you want to, when it's been trained and primed to begin with in one direction and then you're swapping it around the other way to get the result you want, then, you know, that's not a thing that really sits well with me. It's almost like diddling the numbers before it's happened, because you're just setting it up. But then also it highlights the second issue of, well, it's only the Europeans that went and visited the US Project Implicit site, which is in English. Okay, so we're assuming that most people that have gone have either seen it from somewhere else and gone there and muddled their way through it, or that they speak English in the first place. Okay, fair enough. But then the other thing that stands out to me is, well, what about all of the people who weren't white that took this test? Where's the map for them? Because I went up to the link at the very top where it's like, this map, this published finding. Well, yeah, but how about everyone else? How, you've said here that it's the mean average as well, which means that it can be swayed by people at the top and bottom because all you're doing is adding them up and dividing them by the number. So again, how are you kind of trying to suggest that this makes sense? You could have a handful of really, really racist people that, like, quick on the mark with the black people are bad and white people are good, and then, like, almost refusing to do the other part of the assessment. But if that's, that could then slant all of those results in one direction. And yet, if anyone's taking this as any kind of, like, scientifically valid information, then you're looking at this and you're going, oh, Lithuania's pretty bad. Such a racist country. Which is complete crap, because it's just sat there on the map, and it's and the information that's been used to kind of paint it that particular shade of red, it has no real validity to it. It has no real replicability. It's not particularly, like, easily kind of picked apart or analysed. The reasons for it could be numerous. We don't have the full data set to see what they've actually done. We don't know how many people there were per country. There's oh, tell a lie. Actually, on the map, if I bring that back up again, this little bit down the side there, the little grey box does say how many people there were per country. Missed that. But again, it still highlights we don't know what kind of distribution we had from amongst those people. So, I don't know. Where's Lithuania, which was one of the worst ones? There we only had about 700 people. 696 people, I think that says. And so as a result, that's firstly not a particularly large sample. Secondly, we don't know what the distribution was. Were most of those people in the middle, and then there was, like, very few on one end but a lot on the other, so it didn't balance out, it just went all one way? We can't look into it, we can't delve into it, because they've not given us the information that they actually apparently have. And on top of that, the actual testing method that they've used is just horribly, horribly flawed. But anyway, either way, let me know what you guys think, because as said, there may very well be reasons for kind of those attitudes in those places being more prevalent. But this actual map and the testing method behind it, they don't make sense. But have you guys taken these tests? If you have, what do you think? How skeptical are you? I'd hope very. But otherwise, I'd love to know what you guys think about this, because stuff like this just bugs me. I sat there through kind of coursework and in labs and things when I was doing A-levels. I've gone through all manner of statistical information when going through working for business and stuff like that, through going through my training as a coach. And so coming across this kind of stuff where it's like, oh yes, we're going to test with this really flawed method to give you stuff that we're going to say is fact because we believe it is. It breaks the whole thing down. It's one of the reasons why we've got these surges of ignorance against things that are as easily demonstrated as kind of climate change or I don't know, the human impact on the world, and people still kicking back against that. But I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think, again, about this and about everything else, So feel free to let me know regardless. But otherwise, as said, if you want to check out the article, if you want to check out the Project Implicit website and see what you think as well, all of those, I'll leave the link to the article, and then all the other links for everything else are in the article that kind of spurred on this video and inspired it in the first place. But otherwise, again, thanks for posting, Chris, because it gave me some more content to make. And otherwise, guys, I will see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.